Actually, just quick, staff 2 in this case refers to the top staff of the piano. Here's another suggested change for Finale. I really wish that Finale could recognize 2 or 3 staff instruments, I guess 3 staff just being organ, 2 staff instruments as a single staff. I wish it could just treat them as a single staff, or at least somehow be smart enough to know that this is piano right hand and piano left hand. Actually, I mean, I can do that. I can go in and manually change the names of those in the score manager, but you know that doesn't happen automatically when you're creating instruments in Finale, especially with the wizard. And it just like if you have a big score with like a harp part and a piano part and a reduction, it might be a little bit like, oh, what is staff 2 again? Anyway, in this case, it's just the top of the piano, which is what we want. So now I'm going to assign that one. Here we go. Now I remember also a quick thing on this. It looks really small, and I think it is maybe on the small side, but that's because I think this is because I have tempo markings at a fixed font size. Fixed font size means that the size of the thing will not change with the sizing of the music, which I think for the most part is kind of nice, because it's nice to have the font like just super consistent, even if the system size changes from system to system, which you have to do occasionally. That's just the convention I've worked out here. Although yours could very well be different. I'm going to cancel that out. In the page view, it's a little bit bigger, and actually now that I think of it, I think that should be bigger. I think those tempo marks should be bigger. I think my client asked for this size, but it's just so small. I'm going to go ahead and do 12 and see how that looks. I like that personally. I might have to run that by the client too. You always have to balance clients, what they want, with what you want and what you think is the best look and what your sort of professional experience brings to bear. It's definitely a balancing act for sure. Now here it looks like I feel vindicated right here, because this FF, if we don't have consistent placement and reliable placement of dynamics throughout the piece, I would see this and I'd be like, where am I supposed to peak? Where am I supposed to peak? And actually, I don't know where I'm supposed to peak, because I somehow doubt that that the composer wants the altos to hit their fortissimo on this note, and wants the sopranos to hit their fortissimo on this note. I have a feeling that it's probably on the downbeat, and my creation of these accidentals here probably, let's see what happens if you take those out. Now it's like, okay, I might have to ask the client about that. It may not be that important. But here we have one that's clearly, no, these are all assigned. Those two are assigned here, but baritone is assigned there. That would make sense because the baritone actually enters there. So rather than give them like an entrance of, like, say, almost fortissimo, just give them a fortissimo entrance. But I should actually probably ask the client where they want that peak to be. I'm going to assume the downbeat, so I'm going to actually just erase these three and just put that one in. F. No, it's a fortissimo, isn't it? Let's do that. Ooh, I wish it did that better. If I keep making these, one of the things that you will probably hear a lot in these videos is me just talking trash about Finale. It's a really lovely love-hate relationship I have with this program. I love it because it can literally just, it could do really anything I want it to do. If you know how to hack your way through Finale, it can do anything you want it to. And I don't know how it compares to Sibelius, because I've used Sibelius so little, shamefully little. Actually, I'd love to find somebody who knows Sibelius as well as I know Finale and could trade lessons with me. That would be fantastic. In any case, I'm going to just assume this here and assume that these dynamics, these hairpins, extend all the way to those downbeats. Here's another trick worth talking about. Not exactly a trick, but there's so much in Finale that a lot of Finale users just don't know how to use. And so as I use them, I think it's fun to, or worth bringing them all up. One of them is the filter for the copy and paste. I've just adjusted this. I want it to extend to the end of the bar because I think it makes more sense. If I really wanted an arrival on the quarter note, I would say that the best way to do that is to do that. And that would tell the singer, you actually are going to taper to that last quarter note and hold that until the end. That's super subtle, but sometimes they want subtlety. But I would say that unless you really want to go for that specific kind of subtlety, I would avoid this sort of vague taper to the middle of the note thing, to half note. So I could just adjust this one manually as well. I've just adjusted this one, but we should look at the filter. I've already used this filter for the thing that I'm going to be using it for, which is smart shapes assigned to beats. Finale has two different kinds of smart shapes. Slurs are the smart shapes that are assigned to notes, and pretty much everything else is assigned to beats. And you can tell a slur, whoops, if I put a slur on this, you can see how it's actually tied. It actually doesn't have a little blue thing, but it highlights the note it's attached to. Hairpins don't do that. Hairpins have these little blue things. So once I've set the filter and I make sure that use filter is on, I can now just copy paste. Another keyboard shortcut you might not know about is the control click, and I don't know what it is in Mac. I apologize. But you highlight the thing you want, you hold down control in Windows, and you just click on the target measure. Now this only works for basically this does not work if you want to copy something and change its position in the measure. So if I wanted this to happen in the first part of the measure, I couldn't do that. That would not work. I would have to drag it over to the first part of the measure, and then it would copy to there. So, note there. We're getting done, close to being done here, at least with this pass. Except another thing about sort of changing and reassigning dynamics and other expressions is a nice little thing you can do if you just want to change one dynamic or one expression. You don't have to delete this and make a new one. You can actually just double click or press enter on it and find the one you want, click it, either double click or press enter, and it will change that one, which is pretty nice. Unfortunately, I don't think that does it when you select several. Let's find out. No. You see that? So unfortunately, Finale is inconsistent here. You see how there are two that are highlighted, but when I press enter, it's really only caring about that one. You see actually just that one is highlighted now. It's only acting on one at a time, and changing the identity of an expression, at least through this particular method, is a one at a time thing. So you can't, unfortunately. I wish you could. Wouldn't that be great if you could just press enter and change all of them? It would avoid going through this little thingy, but you know, maybe in a future version. So there's a couple more just to deal with, which I'll deal with quickly. And before I move on, I just want to do one more little word of the wise, don't do this thing. See this? That is just begging for trouble. How that, in reality, this is really only assigned to beat, basically I think beat 3 through beat 4 is how it's really assigned in Finale. And that's just bad practice. for reasons I've talked about and reasons I'll probably go into in the future too. You want Finale's internal representation of things to be as close to reality as possible. You always want Finale, you want the dynamics to be assigned to the correct note. And this isn't just even for playback reasons. This is for like layout reasons and spacing reasons, and especially when you start editing parts. It's just really, you want to, this in reality I think needs to end on right before the downbeat, and here's another P that needs to change to a not adjusted one. And not super sure where this one starts. I'm just going to assume it's somewhere, unfortunately it's not letting me assign to beat 2, which is irritating. Well, no it is, it's just beat 2 is there. It's not letting me assign to subdivisions of the beat, unfortunately. So I'm just going to like hedge my bets a little bit, give it sort of a full downbeat and then a small taper. Because it looks like the composer did want this sort of to start. Now here in the baritone, I can actually put it on the and of 1 because there's a note there. Whereas if there's no note there, Finale will basically just let you assign it to like the largest beats of the measure. In this case 1, 2, and 3. But a cool little hack actually. So see how this one is actually assigned to the and of 1? If I were to copy, and my filter is still, this is my filter. My filter is still smart shapes. So if I copy and paste right now, it'll only do those smart shapes. And now it is assigned to beat 1.5 because the source is. And anyway, that's a cool little thing. It's not, this is all of this is super fine tuning. What is going on here? This is actually funny. I can't, oops. This must be a bug because I can actually not change, I can't actually change this horizontally without changing its assignment. I'm holding down Alt. Wait. Either way, whether I hold Alt down or not, this is just changing this assignment. And I think that's because Finale is like complaining somehow that this can't be attached to beat 1.5. There's no beat 1.5 in the music. Let's just see what happens though. I'll move this here and sort of refresh, and no, that's odd. That's really funny, but it doesn't matter because it's properly assigned. It's where we want to be. It's consistent vertically. We want hairpins to line up for the most part, unless they really shouldn't. Here, at the very end, actually, I think instead of a hairpin and then al niente, we should. I normally go for hairpins. The client uses lots of hairpins, whatever. I think though that this would be better served by just a dim al niente. Now, if I really wanted to be, be perfect about this, I would actually make a new category of expressive text specifically for the vocal staves, because expressive text would normally go below the staff, but everything on a vocal staff, everything except for lyrics, should go above, according to Gould. There might be a few exceptions. There are always exceptions, but in general, this was properly placed. So if I were to do that, it would put it below, and I don't want it there. But I might just do a manual position for this one, or I might actually make the expression itself have a specific. Lost my train of thought there. Placement. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create one called dim al niente. And I'm going to make its positioning be, just because I feel like doing it the quote-unquote right way, unchecking that. So it no longer is bound by the category placement. I'm going to put it above baseline or entry. I'm going to give it a 0 baseline offset, and I'm going to give it a 0 entry off. Actually, I'll just make it above staff baseline. Horizontal click position is fine.